And all right, everybody sit tight, and we'll get started.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special Joe and Joe weather show tonight as the next winter storm heads to the northeast. We've got snowfall forecast maps for you and ice forecast maps as well. And winter storm watch is up for most, but not all, of the northeast. So we'll have all that and so much more. It'll be just an absolutely earth shattering event for you tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. They're going to be opening early, by the way, Friday morning, in order to handle the demand for salt and sand and pellet-dough and mag ice pellets and flakes and anything else you need to get you through this next round of winter weather, serving the entire tri-state area at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. And Joe Rayo, the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
Yes.
I wonder how many people will be able to get to Omni True Value, considering all the ice and the snow and the sleet and whatever they'll be coming down. I think pretty good at early 3 a.m., 4 a.m. on Friday morning, Joe.
Yep. And lucky us, because we have our special guest and friend of the Joe and Joe Weather Show, Tony Gigi, from retired, lucky him, from the National Weather Service forecaster, retired from Mount Holly, New Jersey. So he's going to be lending his perspective here on this very, very challenging and confusing situation coming up. I have to tell you, Joe, I don't know how you handled everything today. I saw your snow forecast map, and then I sent you mine because I changed mine. I chickened out, but from yesterday. But Tony, I'm finding this especially challenging in a number of different ways. I can't make heads or tails of some of these model differences that we're seeing. The warmer short range models, the colder global models, and everything else in between. Uh, you know, your expertise is renowned throughout these parts of the Northeast. You are well.
Is that a good renown or a bad renown?
No, it's a good renown. It's a very good renown.
Okay.
You know, La Casper speaks so highly of you. It has to be good, for God's sake. Yes. Well, so what do you think of all this? Because I'm at my wit's end trying to figure out whether is this going to be a sleet storm for 6 hours? Is it going to be a 4 to 6 hour? Well, there's a big difference with what's going on in South Jersey and in southeastern Pennsylvania and so on.
Right.
New York City and Long Island and New Jersey, maybe just south of Route 78 or even just barely north of Route 78, right in there. In that corridor, it's like maybe a 20-mile width stretch where you're going to go from a coating to 3 inches. I mean, how do you rectify all the differences this late in the game?
It seems like it's almost like it's same old. I mean, there have been a lot of scenarios this winter where there's been differences between the mesoscale models and the global models. And I know, before we got on the air, I was talking to you, and I was saying that the NAM has in other mixed precipitation events done better than the globals. And I know that it's almost like on one extreme of all the possible scenarios that are out there right now, because it just surges the warm tongue aloft. Like I don't even geographically remember where you said how far north it
Oh, it
gets.
goes north. It
But
goes
versus like
north of Albany to the almost to the
Mhm.
Massachusetts New Hampshire
Right.
state line.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. But the models normally don't do too well with the warm tongue between 850 and 700. Now, I'm not saying that this NAM run is correct, but I think it has to be given its due, or at least, let's say, temper maybe like what the European and the GFS to certain regards are doing, especially that 18Z European run, which came in extremely more snowier than the previous runs. Thankfully, you still have you still have two more sounding runs to come in
right.
before this thing really gets going, and hopefully, once again, we always hope that things will end up like blending in a little bit closer, with the differences between the models, and also too with the NAM, its wheelhouse is really within 24 hours of an event. That's where it really usually shines. Sometimes you get an off run. And you remember like one of those snow events where it had no snow at all,
Right.
and then at 18Z, and I think at 0Z just came back. So
It did that.
we'll see what the next two runs do.
By the way, it
Mhm.
did that yesterday at 18Z, and another squirrely run. Not a
Mhm.
flake, not an ice pellet, and barely even a raindrop.
Mhm.
And then it brought it back,
Mhm.
on the next run. So and both times that we saw the squirrely runs was on the 18Z run. Hey, Joe, take the floor. I got to set up a couple of things. So you take the floor with Mr. Gigi, and I'll be right back.
Mhm.
Tony, I
Mhm.
think that what we're going to be seeing, as has always been the case in these type of situations, that very lowest layer of the atmosphere, that
Mhm.
shallow layer of cold air,
Right. Mhm.
it's going to be very difficult to, once it's
Yes.
in, it's going to be very difficult to crowbar out, if you will. And
Mhm.
that I think
Yes.
is going to be the 540, the thickness lines are well north of here, and that's
Mhm.
like screaming that whatever frozen precip we're going to get is going to be leaning more towards sleet and ice as opposed to snow. And yet, I still can't help but be concerned that, at least for the initial few hours that the precip comes in, late
Mhm.
tomorrow night into the after midnight hours of Friday morning, that we might see a thump enough so that we may put down a quickie 2, 3, even 4 inches in a few places before we then make the turnover to just plain sleet, ice, or freezing precipitation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you look at the precipitation rates, I mean, you're talking about moderate rates, and it's pretty much almost like moderate rates from the get go. I mean, it just comes screaming in during the evening hours tomorrow. So yeah, so places where it is initially borderline, you could see it evaporationally or dynamically cooling to snow, but then eventually, that warm air, like you say, like aloft is going to win out. And like down our way, like the models have been a little bit steadier, but of course our concern, and I would say like south of like I-78 has been more of sleet and especially like freezing rain. And you talk about like once that cold air gets locked in, it's tough to dig out. I mean, especially in eastern Pennsylvania, and once you get like north and west of Philadelphia, they could have depending upon how the P types, go, that they could have a pretty prolonged period of freezing rain in, parts of the Lehigh Valley and like the northwestern suburbs of Philadelphia overnight tomorrow night.
And you talk about the warm nose at the
Yes.
higher levels of that. I mean,
Right.
this is a Jimmy Durante, in my
Mhm.
opinion. I mean, we really have, once we get above. I mean,
Yes.
where I live here in Putnam County, Putnam Valley,
Mhm.
daybreak on Friday morning, the projected temperatures based upon the soundings will be around 28, 29 degrees.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Meantime, higher up, you've got tremendous warming taking place, and
Yes.
that's the thing that concerns me.
Mhm.
I think we could put down. We don't often talk about accumulation of sleet, but we could
Yes.
put down a pretty good amount of sleet
Mhm.
with these kind of conditions setting up.
Yes, I know like one board member that Philly weather board that I helped moderate down here. that lives in Berks County, and and everyone always has flashbacks to like bad non-snow events, and he was thinking about like one of the 2007 sleet storms that occurred in Berks County that pretty much just shut down I-78 there. Because those exits are like 40 miles apart, and once you get some tractor trailers just colliding with each other and jackknifing, I mean, you just can't open the road. You can't open the road until conditions warrant it. So, and even with me, I go back to that January '94 ice storm here, which I thought was like one of the worst forecasts I ever did for the Philadelphia metropolitan area. And that was even, the city was shut down.
Possible. That's
with less than a tenth of an inch of ice. Oh yes, it is.
No, it's
Joe.
not possible.
It is.
Stop
it,
Anthony. Really.
It is. But ice, Joe, if unprepared for ice, you don't need much to just pretty much just bring everything to a standstill. Although, I mean, this is in the forecast, so this is not a surprise down here, right now. I mean, you could just say like, well, we should be advised, we should be warning. I mean, there's borderline decisions that the Mount Holly office is going to have to make, in our area. But this is not something that right now is forecast to be rain.
Right.
and then all of a sudden, like 2:00 in the morning, it's freezing rain. So it's out there. So.
Paul Roman hit super chat. Thank you, Paul. And he has a question for you.
And David Fuller.
David Fuller, too. Yes.
Yes.
I couldn't see David's, but I did see Paul's. It's right in front of me. And Paul would like to know, Tony, since we're going from mid-60s to 20s tonight in inland,
yes.
where he is anyway.
Right.
He's up in the Hudson Valley. I'm sorry, he's up in Ulster
Mm-hmm.
County near the Catskills.
Mm-hmm.
Does the temperature drop
Mm-hmm.
from what is the temperature drop from the mid 20s to 60s to the low 20s? How does that kind of weather scenario impact, or does it impact what's coming up for Thursday night into Friday?
Well, the ground is always going to react a little bit slower to changes, being warmth than let's just say like bridges and overpasses and trees, so that may, it may help with the melting a little bit, but also too, what is happening is that we're having, this is not starting 6 hours from now. It's starting 30 hours from now.
Right.
So you're going to have tomorrow is going to be a pretty, it's going to be a pretty cold day. You may, I know down here we're probably not going to get much above freezing. So up in Ulster County, you may spend the whole day
in the 20s.
The whole day below, in the 20s. So I think it's the warmth of the last couple of days may just totally be negated.
And
also, I think the other thing to take into account is that the bulk of the precip, the lion's share of what we're going to see, is going to happen probably between midnight and 1 a.m. to about 7 a.m. The sun will be below the horizon. Now, if this would have happened 6 hours later, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. or during the midday and afternoon, I think that even though we wouldn't be able to see the sun, the fact that the ultraviolet and infrared radiation from the sun interacting with blacktop surfaces and paved surfaces may actually help to keep accumulations of snow or sleet or ice down a bit. But this is going to happen under the cover of darkness for the most part, so there isn't going to be any kind of radiation to help the blacktop and paved surfaces. So that only loans to or the credence of significant accumulations awaiting people who have to go to work first thing on Friday morning. And I'm happy I'm not one of them.
Yes. Keith James tonight. I got the answer to your question, Keith. At least I have my perspective. He says, how do you convince naysayers / non-weather people who thought that the last rain to ice storm that never happened in Hackensack, New Jersey, because we all know the whole world revolves around Hackensack. Now colleagues / non-weather people don't believe what they're hearing about this storm. For you, the Weather Service is somewhat insulated from the public, because at the end of the day, you don't have to answer the phone, right?
Yeah.
But Joe and I are much less insulated from all of this. So, but I'd like your perspective, Tony, on that when something like that happens, when something is forecast, it didn't quite go according to plan, then something similar comes up a short time later that looks like it's going to that gives you a similar type forecast. Uh, do you even think? My feeling is you probably don't even think about the fact that, okay, we just had this 2 weeks ago. People were pissed. Now they're not going to believe us. You just do your job.
That's right. You just do your job. And also too, that event, and I think we were on together for that event.
Yes.
That event was mainly during a day event. I mean, this is a 12-hour switch. This is like almost like a worst case scenario in terms of ice of timing, because most of this and the heaviest precipitation is going to be occurring overnight, like Joe said, when there's no sun going to be out.
And actually, in that event that we had the show for, we think back a few weeks ago, as it turned out, it evolved slightly differently, because we wound up with one more extra wave because we had precip going into the nighttime hours, and areas like Long Island, Long Island and other places actually did get some icing that was supposed to happen earlier in the day, and it wound up happening in the evening and in the first part of the night. So kind of changed the perspective. Keith, I'll just tell you that from my standpoint, when someone says something to me along those lines about being upset maybe because they you forecasted an ice storm or whatever it is, and it didn't happen, and I usually just respond and say that I'm sorry you didn't get the tragedy you were looking for, but maybe next time, just hang on, you'll get another chance.
Well, I have to tell you, the cold air is certainly coming in really quick, because at 1:50 this afternoon, the high temperature here at Rancho Rayo in Putnam Valley, 67 degrees. And right now, here we are. It's only 6 hours later, and the temperature has fallen to 39. So we have dropped almost 30 degrees in the last 6 or 7 hours, and it's going to continue to fall. I presume come tomorrow morning that we're going to be seeing temperatures locally, probably in the mid and low 20s. And the ground can get awfully cold very quickly. To set the stage or to prime the roadways and streets and sidewalks for a freezing weather or frozen weather event coming our way for Thursday night into early Friday. That is a direct answer to all of the warm ground people out there who say, well, how much can possibly accumulate after a kind of day like we had today? Very quickly, if the temperatures are going down as quickly as they are right now.
You can accumulate.
Go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can accumulate. I think of the March 31st, April 1st snowstorm.
That occurred. 1997.
Yes. That one, it accumulated during the day, and it was in the 70s for several days before that. If you get moderate intensity snow, it don't care what the ground is like. It's going to accumulate. It's going to stick.
That's my line in the sand. If you're going to get moderate snow, and at least it snows of 3/4 of an inch to an inch an hour, that more than compensates for any kind of warm ground. I just want to say big hellos to everybody on the chat board. Welcome to tonight's show. We've got 66 likes. Would love to get up to over 100. Makes not only Joe and I happy, but it'll make Tony Gigi happy. And welcome to any of our new viewers. If you like the show, you can hit the like button to take us over 100. Just use your Gmail account to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can watch the Joe and Joe show every time it's on, which is 5 days a week, Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and Monday through Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Time. The chairman, Scott Briller, on the board, and I know you are expert at this, Tony. He says, it seems that whatever the system, well, certainly this winter, but it probably applies to most winters, Philadelphia always draws the short end of the stick. Okay? I mean, what does it take for Philadelphia to get a heavy snowfall?
Well, it's you have to stop looking at Worcester, Massachusetts normals. I think sometimes when it comes to Philadelphia, we statistically average 1 6-inch or greater snow event every winter,
Right.
and we had one.
Yes, and so
We
does
had one.
and so does New York. New York City, it's the average is 1.
Yeah. So we have, now granted, we haven't had too many of like lighter events around it, but we did get the one big event. When you talk about like getting the short end of the stick, I think like once the farther southwest you get away from Boston, it seems like the bigger cities get more and more shafted, because as bad as Philadelphia is, our normals, the new normals that were computed for from 1991 to 2020, the average snowfall for Philadelphia actually went up.
Yes,
While
and New York it went up also.
yes,
Everywhere it went
yes,
up.
but right. And I'm not sure about DC or Harrisburg, but I would almost suspect that those places, that they've been getting the shaft even more than Philadelphia. So yeah, I mean it's not a place that you get a lot of snow often, and I think of also too what you see especially in the day 7 to day 10 ranges, you see all of these nice looking snowstorms, and then once you get inside of day 6 to day 5, they go poof.
Right.
And it's just they're not going to all materialize. I mean, even in like the best of winters, the most 6 inches or greater events that Philadelphia has ever had in one winter since 1950 has been 4. And just think of all those GFS runs and all those European runs and how many 6-inch or mores you see there. And
if I only had a dime for each one.
Yes, yes, and the total is 4. The total is 4. I mean, the max is 4.
Yeah, I often tell snow weenies, where do you think you live? You don't live by the shores of Lake Ontario, where you could just pull up the
Yes.
lawn chair and turn your face into the wind and just sit there and let the squalls get you. This is New York City. This is the Atlantic Ocean is next door, and it is what it is. Steve Lapointe
Yes.
hitting super chat tonight for a 3-way of beer for the 3 of us. Thank you, Stephen. Most appreciated as always. And I want to. I remember doing just doing a little bit of casual research one day, and there were 2 snow holes that are predominant in this region, and I'm including southern New England. There's a snow hole. There's a snow hole that Philadelphia sits in, and parts of southeast PA sit in. And you and I have talked about this, how it makes sense because anything coming in from the west gets caught in the mountains and dries up and then comes out the other side a lot weaker. And then when it's a situation when something's redeveloping off the coast, oftentimes that area is just too far southwest in order to catch any kind of deepening. The other snow hole, which was a little bit of was a kind of a surprise, didn't know, southeast Connecticut into Rhode Island, there's a little bit of a snow hole there too, where for whatever reason, and I guess it has to do with maybe systems coming in also, probably some that they miss out that come up from one particular direction, and maybe stuff that develops near Cape Cod that Boston catches and the Cape catches, but they miss out on. There's a spot in there. It's not a very big one. It's like western Rhode Island to maybe to about New Haven, where the normals actually drop off and then they go back, then they kind of even out on either side. It's a lot of people don't realize how many microclimates there are all around. Long Island has its own microclimate. The Hudson Valley has its own microclimate. It's not unusual to see weird things happen.
I always say that Orange County, of the 4 main counties in the lower Hudson Valley, Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Orange. And that's especially true when I was at News 12 Hudson Valley or News 12 Westchester. I always used to say, I wish we could keep Orange County out of the group, because they seem to have the most off-the-wall weather as compared to all the other counties. Putnam and Westchester, Rockland, basically you could lump all 3 of those counties together. But Orange County, because of the fact that especially it has those high mountains, the high terrain, especially along and north of 84, we couldn't understand. Rich Von Olin, who was in charge and still is, I think, of the traffic and weather division the News 12 network, he would pull his hair out. That's probably why he's mostly bald now. that was a bit of humor that just came like that all of a sudden. But I mean, like, he couldn't understand why in Orange County they always seem to have like 25 to 30 or 40% higher snow amounts than any other spot in the Hudson Valley, including even Dutchess County. I just said, well, the only thing we could do is just simply ignore it. Let's not even say it's in the Hudson Valley. It's its own entity, so to speak. So you talk about microclimates or whatever like that. That used to stick out like a sore thumb.
It always seemed to happen, Joe. Always, because we used to talk about that in FiOS. Before you got there, I remember having a couple of conversations over it. And someone mentioned the fact that they get, whenever it's with a big snowstorm with a northeast wind, they get a lot of upslope over there, a lot of lift.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it.
Yeah. That could be. It's always the same. It's always, there was like this one guy who always used to, and this was the thing that was driving Rich crazy. Like one of our weather watchers or whatever, he was always coming in like, you look across Orange County, Monroe 6 inches, and Newburgh 7 inches, and this guy would always come up with 13 inches, and he couldn't understand what the hell's going on here, why, and ultimately, we had to start believing him because there were others nearby that were reporting basically the same thing. It is really weird when you have these microclimates within your general climate. Trying to forecast for all the, but again, we all draw snow maps. Tony, I know you've done that and Joe and I've done it too. But you have to remember that the maps are flat, and what we're dealing with is sometimes we're dealing with places that are 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 feet above sea level, especially up in the Catskill area, Sullivan County, Ulster County, or whatever. And how do you forecast for something like that when just a stone's throw away, the elevation is quite a bit lower? I mean, it makes it tough.
You can't zip code forecast.
There are some tools, Joe, and actually, if Bill was on, that try to take some of the elevation into consideration when they, when you generate snowfall maps. I mean, granted, once you see the NWS maps come out, I mean, I guess because of I don't know, the generation, you kind of lose the topography on that, but it is trying to catch some of that topography once in a while. Of course, you have other things have to be correct too. You have to have, the precipitation amount has to be correct, and other considerations. But I mean, now some of those smarter tools that the Weather Service is trying to incorporate, even like before I retired, you could see where the Kitatinis were in Sussex County, New Jersey, if the forecasts were the same. But I think that's too maybe more also in situations that are, once you get into the spring, we're a little bit more elevation dependent,
right?
And maybe not as much as a blanket where it's going to snow everywhere. It's it's not going to snow at 1,000 feet and it's going to be raining at 100 feet.
Joe Rayo, there's a question. There's a question here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Before I forget,
yes.
Mark G wants to know for the Hudson Valley in Connecticut, north of 287 and along Route 84, some of the models were showing this, including the European. Is there a possible changeover back to snow before it ends? And how does that possibility look? Little or no accumulation?
The winds. I don't think it's going to be much, if anything. Yeah, it's certainly a possibility that because the winds are going to be basically from a northeast and east direction for much of the storm, and then as the storm passes on by, they very quickly shift over into the northwest. But by that time, I think a lot of the precipitation is pretty much out of here. So I would not be surprised if we finished out with a little bit of a flourish of wet snow or wet flurries or whatever, but I don't think it's going to add all that much on to what has already happened. The damage will have already been done in terms of snow and sleet and ice. By the time this all comes to a complete end, it might come to a complete end as early as 1 or 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. And Joe and Tony, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the afternoon, we actually saw some sunshine breaking through before the day comes to an end on Friday. So
that would be beneficial down here, Joe, because there's going to be places like north and west of Philadelphia that they're going to get iced with this. So if you can melt some of that ice off of the trees and everything else before the sun sets and you get down into colder temperatures, that'll be advantageous to those places.
Tony, you sent me a graphic, right?
Yes. That was the European. Yeah, so that's just to show that we talk about the warm nose.
Oh, I'm going to bring it up. Hang on one second. Just give me a moment here. Let's see if I can manage this. Sometimes I know what I did. Okay, I'll do it a different way. Hang on one second. Okay, so I'll bring it up, and yeah, because we have been mentioning the warm nose. We actually showed some soundings last night about the warm nose, and Tony brought his own warm nose with him. How enchanting! Thank you. I mean,
because I'm not healthy, Joe. My nose is not cold.
Here we go. I got to click on.
Cha-cha-cha-cha.
There you go. There's the warm nose. If you stare at it long enough, it looks like something else. But I'm not going to go down that particular road. Go ahead, Anthony. It's you have the floor.
Okay, I don't see it, so because of the tape delay.
Okay.
So,
same here, Joe. I haven't seen it yet.
All right, we'll
either.
give it about 10 seconds. It'll be up there. 10 or 15 seconds. It'll be up there. In the meantime,
moderators, alert moderators. We have somebody who is trying to spread some messages other than weather or meteorology or science.
Remove them.
So if you
banish
could get rid of
them.
that person,
send them.
Banish them.
Banish them into the darkness, where there will be wailing and
Yes.
gnashing of teeth, or something. I wrote it down somewhere.
Yes.
Yes. Is it up on the screen yet, or the delay is long tonight? Then.
Yeah, I seen it. Yeah, I'm seeing what you're seeing. What you put up in terms of the nose. The nose.
Yeah, I still don't see it. So
You're in an even longer delay.
Salt.
Oh my God! It takes that.
Yes,
it takes that long to get the
that's-
signal down up to Philadelphia. My God.
Yes. Well, it's a 2016 computer. It's Verizon non-files.
That's my joke.
Well, you know what? It's funny because I just saw myself rub my nose on the YouTube here. So, well,
and guess what,
I don't know if you
Professor?
see it, but
The ghost of Professor
there it
Ehrlich
is.
is now. The ghost of Professor Ehrlich is now saying, "Children."
Yes.
Yeah, now I see it.
Okay.
Now I do see it.
So explain what this
so-
Picasso it means, because that's what it is. It's a Picasso.
Yes. Basically, in the color schemes, and this is for Philadelphia, by the way, once you see the color purple, those are temperatures that are at or above freezing. Now, this cross section, this actually goes forward in time. It's from like right now, and it goes through the event, which is like that second nose, what I would say, with that second image of purple that's in there.
Right.
And this goes from 1,000 millibars up to 700 millibars. So if you notice, like around Philadelphia, except for a small period of time Thursday morning, the temperatures above 850 millibars or 5,000 feet, they never go below freezing. There's sections above 5,000 feet that never go below freezing. So once precipitation starts, it's going to hit that warm layer or warm nose, and it's going to melt. And then depending upon the thickness of the cold air and how cold it is, it could change back to either freezing rain or sleet, which is a decent possibility even for the city of Philadelphia for a period Thursday night. And then eventually, once that purple area goes down to the bottom of the graph at the surface. And this is the new European run. This is a little bit of a colder run, so it actually has Philadelphia getting above freezing about 8 or 9 in the morning,
Right.
which is kind of late if you compare it to other models. Then that's just that would be just plain rain. That would be just plain rain.
Gotcha. All right. It's useful to know. You know, it's very important and very useful to look at the soundings because you get a much better feel for what's happening. It's not just the maps. You know, you want to see a profile of what it looks like up and down. And you know, we were showing soundings yesterday, and you could clearly see the warm nose that was there at the about the 800 850 level.
Yes.
All right, so let's.
And it's still there. Still forecast to be there.
So Joe, you got your snow forecast map all set to go?
Oh well, give me a chance to. Can I share the screen?
You certainly can.
Okay. Well, what I have to do is I have to put this on a. Give me about 30 seconds. Talk about something.
You know what? In the meantime, I'll bring up mine then. I'll do mine and then we'll come back and we'll do yours. So I did something today that I normally don't do. When I did my early call map, I usually stick to it until the day before the event, which is tomorrow, and then I make a final call. But this afternoon, it was so gut-wrenching for me to look at the HRRR and the NAM and how warm they were versus the global models, which how cold they were. That I just had to change it because I just felt like what I had was too aggressive. So Tony, I don't have this is the new one, and I know you're on a delay. So originally, I had Long Island and New York City. And a band going east-west through along 78 on either side in like a 2 to 4 inch snow band, and I actually thought it might start to snow even down in southwest Jersey, and southeast PA for a short time. So I basically, I lowered the amounts. I got a 1 to 2 inches now because it's not just a matter of the NAM showing sleet because that was going to happen, but the fact that it shoots it up so quickly, and I was thinking back to, like you said earlier in the show, about how the NAM handles that sort of situation fairly well. I could think of a number of times where the NAM model showed warming that the global models did not show or showed coming in slower, and the NAM wound up being correct. So I just figured I had to respect that, and I cut my amounts down just a little bit. Even up to the north and west, I brought them down just a little bit. But I've got a 1 inch line across Long Island now, just south of 78. Then running through into Pennsylvania, 2 inches, the southern New England coast, southernmost Westchester County, and then 2 to 4, mostly 2 to 4 in northwest New Jersey, the lower Hudson Valley. I got the 4 line right through Putnam County, Joe, and going east to Hartford and Providence. And I've got a 6 inch line from Boston, going west-southwest to the Catskills to Sullivan County, and then kind of going northwest from there to just west of Binghamton, and then up I-81 toward Syracuse. Meanwhile, to the south, I've got southeast PA, southwest Jersey. Draw the zero. I have a 0 line from Sandy Hook to between Wilmington and Dover in Delaware to Washington, Baltimore. So from there north and west up to the 1 inch line, I just said sleet to freezing rain, ending as rain. And if you wind up with sleet or enough sleet, maybe somebody gets a coating, maybe somebody gets a half an inch, but it'd be generally less than an inch of any kind of accumulation. And then it would be just freezing rain and then rain. So that's my map. So now we can go to La Rayo, and he can show you his map.
Okay, La Rayo. Let me just get the screen shared, and La Rayo is bringing it up right now. And actually, Joe, as you can see here, Let me just alter this just a little bit. I think honestly, in all of my sections here, I would probably say put more of an emphasis on the first number as opposed to the second.
Okay.
And when I do that, what I would be looking at would be a map that's rather similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is.
In other
Actually,
words,
it is similar.
Along the second number is the CYA number,
Right.
if you will. But 1 to 2 inches maybe for the south shore of Long Island, the north shore, 2 maybe 4 inches, and that even extends into a good part of New York City, much of the northern third of New Jersey, and into the lower end of the lower Hudson Valley. And generally speaking, even though it's further to the south, I-287, which is right where HPN or White Plains is, north of 287, you'd probably see it jump to about 4 to 6, and north of the 84 corridor, maybe upwards to 6 to 8. And that big circle that you see there with 8 plus, that's where the Catskills are, which covers portions of Sullivan and Ulster County. And up there, when we're talking about elevations of 1,500, 2,000 or more feet, my thoughts are that we probably could see maybe in excess of 8 inches in a few places. But if you're looking for snow, significant snow, very significant or substantial snows, I would suggest that's the place you'd have to go to get it, because strictly because of elevation, when your ears start to pop, so to speak. But you could see that, and notice, if you will, also that I say first call map for projected snow and sleet accumulation, because I do believe that some of this is not going to be necessarily snow, but also sleet accumulations, probably on top of the initial snow cover. I don't really see, with the snow cover and with any sleet that falls, I'm really not too concerned about freezing rain, at least on paved surfaces and most streets and even secondary roadways. But it does look like we are going to pick up something in terms of an accumulation, even as far south as you can see here into the New York area. Again, New York might only pick up, if you emphasize that first number, might only be 1 inch, maybe 2 inches. And again, as you go north, that's where you'll be seeing the more significant snow amounts. And as I said, Joe, very much like what you put down, if you put the emphasis more on my first number in the range as opposed to the second.
Let me just get these super chat hits and thank yous for Helen Bertona hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Helen. Most appreciated. And you're relatively new on the chat board and on super chat. Thank you for being here, and I hope I'm guessing you like the show, and that's always a good thing. Jeff Fowler says he hit super chat tonight. Thank you, Jeff. Very generous of you. Thank you. He says I finally got the chance to get on here, to get on live. Thanks to Joe and Tony for the fun. Let the fun begin. These short-term models are driving me nuts, he says. You and me both, for sure. And also Jason Barry, thanks you especially, Joe Rayo. He hit super chat tonight saying, thank you for talking about Orange County. It's not like that we, we weren't excluding Orange County or any other county, but it's good that it came up in conversation.
No, but we're just talking about, of the four, as I said, of the 4 main counties in the lower Hudson Valley, the dysfunctional county in terms of weather, the one that gives, I think, forecasters the most headaches is Orange County because of the elevations, and it just, and I also point out that Orange County extends the furthest to the west, practically touching Pennsylvania, for example, around the Port Jervis area and northwestern New Jersey. And of course, northwest Jersey, we have High Point State Park at an elevation of like 1,800 feet. And the North Jersey weather observers, Nick Stefano, haven't had any contact with Nick in a while, but we'd always see in northwest Jersey, Sussex County, up near High Point, they always had the big snow amounts as opposed to other places in northern New Jersey. So it's crazy time.
These last 22 years in this coastal upcycle we've been in must be killing him then, because they've been, especially this year, everything's just kind of shut off in terms of snowfall amounts go way down as you go west and northwest as opposed to going east. But Tony, you saw both. You were able to see both forecasts, and they are similar. And the minds the thinking behind it is also similar. You think do they look fair to you?
Oh yeah, yes, they look fair. I mean, like we were saying before we came online, that I think that the more difficult forecast in this in terms of, because you have to deal with snow, sleet, and freezing rain, while like down here it's basically sleet, freezing rain, and then eventually rain. So that's snow that adds that literally adds a lot more uncertainty to what's going to fall or what's going to occur. So that that seems reasonable. I really don't see any objections to that. I mean, you are going to transition over that again, that warm layer aloft is going to eventually win, but it does look like it's going to be cold enough at the start that you will get some snow out of it. And you talked about Nick Stefano. I mean, I actually Nick texts me a lot. He's texted me this week also. So he's doing good. He's doing good. So hopefully he'll get he'll get somewhere like 3 to 6 inches. Hopefully the 3 will work out for him in far northwest New Jersey with this event. Looks like it's possible. He should start with snow and then eventually go over to sleet. Unfortunately for Sussex County, it looks like they're never going to get above freezing. So that's kind of a tough a tough commute for them. Snow, then sleet, then freezing rain. That's going to be a tough Friday morning. And not only a lot of places in northwest New Jersey and also in eastern Pennsylvania.
I'm sorry. I was getting some. I felt like some aliens were talking to me. I'm getting some all sorts of weird feedback. That was bizarre.
Mm.
I'm not sure.
Miss
I thought she was Miss
Spallerite. Anyway, she's she's asking for him. Please run the 500 millibar anomaly out to March 11th, if possible.
Okay. Well, I know she was. I think wasn't she down in Mexico? I thought you were still on vacation down in some I believe it was in Mexico. I hope you didn't come back yet. And you were enjoying, because I saw her. She messaged a question about thinking about staying an extra week, and I said absolutely, stay an extra week. Let's see. All right, I will get. She wants the 500 millibar anomaly going how long, Joe?
To March 11th.
Okay. On which?
That's what, 384 hours from now?
Yes. All right. So we'll put that up. Let me. I gotta find it first.
And Donato Colantonio says, how come Westchester not under watch if we getting snow and ice? I think he's referring to the fact that lower Westchester, south of 287, is not in the winter storm watch. And the reason is that
they pay higher taxes south of 287. That's why.
It's probably because the forecasters are thinking that it's going to be more rain than ice or snow down there, and that's probably the reason why that they're not. But I'll bet you before this is all over said and done that lower Westchester, south of 287, does go under some kind of a winter weather advisory or something before this is through.
Oh
so
yeah, it has.
If you're looking for that, Donato, I can only tell you. Hold tight. You will get your wish if you're wishing for that.
Yeah, there is no winter weather advisory watch.
Yeah.
When we weather service, we have like so much terminology to begin with different advisories and warnings and watches but yeah, what you said, Joe, is true. That if they're not expecting warning criteria to occur in that section of the county, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be any headlines. But normally, when the warnings go up in locations and the advisories go up in places where less impacts are expected.
I thought they were supposed to. I thought the National Weather Service was going to do away and come up with a whole set of new criteria or a whole new set of headlines and warnings and watches or whatever. And of course, this all came off of 3-4 years ago, or maybe it's now 5 years ago, whatever, in Atlanta, where Originally, they had a situation where they had a winter storm watch for Atlanta, and then they replaced it with a winter weather advisory. And everybody said, "Oh, well, that's much better than a winter storm watch." And they just assumed that there wasn't going to be much of a problem. And meanwhile, there was like snow and ice, and some people didn't get home for like 8 hours that particular situation, and they were confused. And then everybody said, "Well, we should change the wording, and we should change that." And I thought we went through this whole rigmarole in the last couple of years, voting and determining what would be good and what would be. And here we are in the winter of 2022, and we're still using the same thing.
Well, they did get rid of the blizzard
Yeah,
watch.
I think Bill would have to answer that. Because being retired has its benefits. I know that there's always talk about simplification of the headlines because people get confused. It's like people get confused with pull push on doors. And so, but I honestly don't know where that is at in terms of trying to make like all the headlines a little bit easier for everyone to, because if you put up a headline or any sort of advisory or warning and people don't take the appropriate action, then the message is lost.
All right. Well,
it's not getting across.
Tony, I got to say, I'll be devastated if they get rid of the low water advisory. I live for the low. I just live for the low water advisory. All right, let's get the 500 millibar anomaly up for Ms. Svallerite, and I think it's on the screen right now, or at least it should be. Hang on, I got to get rid of one screen here. Just give me a second. Okay, let's get rid of that, and now I can focus. Okay, so of course, the 18. This is the 18Z run of the GFS, and Tony, I don't know if you've been paying attention if you're looking at the teleconnections, but the EPO, the East Pacific Oscillation,
yes,
is forecast to go off the wall, off the charts, negative, especially by the European. All the three models have it. The European 2 days ago, Tony, had a -7 standard deviation on the East Pacific Oscillation. And I messaged Bill Goodman because I was thinking back to 2018. March of 2018, we had all three teleconnections were off the wall, negative. The NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, was like something between -4 and -6. The PNA, the Pacific North America Index, was between -4 and -6. And the East Pacific Oscillation was between -4 and -6. And that's the month that we got the 4 nor'easters in 2018. So we all remember that. Now, I was trying to ask him, in this situation, we're going to have a negative PNA and a negative East Pacific Oscillation. The NAO, though, looks like it might be slightly positive this time. So I was trying to figure out what are the implications of a super duper off the wall negative East Pacific Oscillation. What is the impact in the East if you've got a negative Pacific North America Index, not off the wall negative, but just like one standard deviation negative, and the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, is one standard deviation positive. So I kind of thought that would mean progression, things moving from west to east. The EPO would probably press down cold air from Canada, so maybe we would get situations like this. And I was thinking maybe with the negative PNA in the mix, you probably could get some severe weather outbreaks in parts of the country. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, the 2018, Joe, that was actually a sudden stratospheric warming event.
Yes, it happened in mid-February, in fact.
Right. Yes, and there's always, as much as everyone wants everything done yesterday, there's usually like about a 3-week delay from when that actual warming starts in the stratosphere. That threshold criteria is actually met, and when it actually starts impacting our weather. here on the East Coast. I mean, usually it affects the Europe a little bit faster, and then,
Right.
because, like you said about the negative NAO, but then it retrogrades westward, and then we get into that pattern, which we were in that March, where we had the four nor'easters and the four snows. So I mean, that there are differences this March right now. I mean, actually the stratospheric vortex is still on steroids. It's still pretty strong.
Yes.
So its collapse, if it's going to happen, I mean, it always collapses, but its collapse is probably going to be in April. So we, end up having like just a typical lousy April month. But in terms of like what you're saying here, I would bring the expression, the angle of the cold, possible problem with that. With the EPO being negative, there is not going to be a shortage of cold air in Canada, and it's gone, and there may even be some. I mean, with that being that negative, if it actually verifies, there probably even be some cross polar flow.
Right.
But the problem may be like, how does it get down into the United States? The PNA is negative. It may end up impacting, maybe plunging more, west of us into the Rockies, into the plains, and before it goes eastward. And like you said, with the NAO being positive, there's an exit for the cold air. But I mean, it could just keep on replenishing itself. It's not like, well, this is the one shot and it's done for the month of March. It just could keep on repeating itself. So, we'll see, because the EPO, in terms of like accuracy, once you get past like day 8 or day 9, it really almost like seems like sometimes, like I even said this, I said, sometimes I think you're better off, if you really want cold weather and snow, you're better off on day 13 seeing a positive EPO than a negative EPO.
No, you're
because
right.
Chances
You're
are
right.
yeah, they'll switch. Yes. Yes.
And you see it from run to run also when I'm sort of trying to eyeball it.
Yeah.
For example,
Mhm.
the 12Z and 0Z runs are producing troughs in the east and ridges in the west, and the off runs
Right.
are doing the exact opposite. And
Right.
yesterday it was the reverse. The 6 and 18 were doing troughs in the east, and the 0 and 12s were doing troughs in the west. So yeah, once you get outside of day 10, I think you're right. I think you're better off seeing it the opposite of what you want it to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But the Madden-Julian oscillation right now is like crossing into warmer phases. So if you want to say like there's some correlation, some logic to what's coming, that if it keeps on being active and it actually gets into colder phases for March, I mean, you're talking about maybe mid to late March. I mean, and there's also a lag with the EPO, just like there is with the stratospheric warming. When the EPO goes negative, again, for the cold air to filter this far east, it usually takes 3 to 5 days. So there could be some, let's say some corroboration in this going forward in the month of March, but we'll just have to wait and see how this goes.
By the way, one of the interesting things about this particular event, and it was, you could see it on the loop that I just had. If you give me a moment, I'll bring it back up. But we were, in the days coming up to this and discussing this, we were talking about the fact how the storm from last Thursday and the one yesterday, uh, you know, their job was to dent the southeast ridge, so that this third one would take a track a bit further to the south. Well, something got in the way, because the ridge is actually a little bit stronger than what was being advertised, and I noticed this back about a week or so ago when I was looking at the models. But of all things, uh, and Tony and Joe, take a look at this, because it doesn't happen too often this way, or maybe it does and we just don't look at it. But uh, out in the Atlantic, northeast of the Leeward Islands, there's a cutoff low that formed. And that cutoff actually wound up pumping up the ridge. You see it right here. The ridge, so we'll go back, for example, for the ridge was flattened by the storm from last Thursday into Friday. It starts to pop up, and now, of course, you've got this cutoff that forms east of Bermuda, or southeast of Bermuda, and then drops southward. And then the system that went through yesterday really, didn't do anything to flatten the ridge ever so slightly. But that cutoff low that's sitting northeast of the Leeward Islands is keeping the ridge only slightly stronger, or at least enough that you're dealing with this dilemma of the primary low that's coming out and going into Western PA and trying to throw it to either try to throw to a secondary or doing a center jump, however you want to see it. But if you want to blame something for the ridge in the east of being a little bit stronger than advertised, you can blame that cutoff low that formed northeast of the Leeward Islands, in my opinion.
I thought for a second you were going to start alluding to the first possible invest
No.
system beginning to form.
No.
First name storm.
I do want to ask the two of you, and this struck me this afternoon in looking out after the atrocity of Friday. But what do both of you think about the possibility of our having another snow squall event here late Sunday, with the next push of that next Arctic front pushing across the area later in the day on Sunday? Do you think we might actually have to deal with another round of maybe squalls or maybe heavy snow showers
it did cross
for the end of this upcoming weekend?
Joe, it did cross my mind when I was looking at the stuff this afternoon. It did cross my mind as a possibility.
Right now, this far out, you're not going to have anything too well defined. It will become more defined, I'm sure, in the runs to come. But I will say that on the FGen, the chart that shows the atmospheric energy and the omega, already you could see there's like a line or a band of omega that's developing along and ahead of that approaching front. And I said, is it possible? Could we have another one of these in only a week after the first? And it'll be interesting to see. Don't forget that just a few days ago, people were hoping that there might be some kind of a coastal system on Sunday that might bring us a round of snow. That has pretty well gone by the board, seemingly. And now we have to turn our attention to a possible Arctic frontal passage later on Sunday. And again, maybe as we get closer to the event, it'll become more defined, and we may be able to hone in on a possibility of another round of snow flurries or snow showers or even squall activity for the end of the upcoming weekend, because temperatures are going to go from probably near 40 or low 40s on Sunday, tumbling back into the mid and low 20s on Monday behind that front. So that's pretty much what happens when you have, at this time of the year, a sharp weather front. It's usually accompanied by some of that squally activity, and that I think may very well happen on Sunday again.
Tony.
In one word, Joe?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
One word, Joe? Yeah. Yes.
You go.
What? No. I agree. I mean, there was because I can't do at home, especially with my circa 2014 computer.
It gets old. That computer ages while the show goes on, by the way.
Yes, it'll be yes, it'll be.
It's already 2 years older than what it was about 20 minutes ago. But go on.
But I remember Bob Stauber who I used to work with down in Mount Holly. He used to have a rule of thumb with the 1,850 thicknesses. About if you saw like a 1250, I think I'm hoping I got the number right. A 1250 thickness that along an Arctic front, that was kind of like almost like a signature for snow squalls or snow showers. And again, I don't know what the thickness. I mean, this is a pretty cold air mass that's coming in behind this front on Sunday. I don't know if the thicknesses get down that low, but it does have that same look that what happened last weekend, and then I believe it could repeat itself. Why not? It looks like it. The setup looks similar.
Yeah, it was.
If I recall, we had to.
You go, Joe.
If I recall, before last Saturday, let's say on Thursday or whatever like that, I'd say don't forget on Thursday we had the wind and the rain event. And what's coming our way for the weekend, for the President's Day weekend? And I said, Saturday there'll be a chance for scattered snow showers, and then the next day, Friday, I think it looked a little bit more impressive. And on Saturday, I said, "Oh my God!" I mean, this is going to be snow squall territory, and it may very well happen again. I think as we get closer to this upcoming weekend, that we may see a repeat of that. It's not too often that snow squalls in New York City or in the tri-state area, they happen maybe once a winter, maybe once every other winter. To have a similar situation like what we had on Saturday happen again only a week or so later, that's kind of amazing. And for all of you who are watching on the chat board right now, watching us on the chat board, keep that in the back of your mind. It's Wednesday now. We'll see what happens. We may have something to talk about on Coffee with Joe and Joe on Sunday, Joe.
We certainly can. We certainly may. Tony, you retired before they brought the snow squall warning in, right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, you could have.
Yes,
Too
yes,
bad.
I retired.
It's too bad because you could have wreaked havoc all over Pennsylvania and Jersey with the.
That's it.
You know, I could put out. Go ahead.
I could have put out a snow squall. I could have put out a snow squall advisory and confused everyone. So,
or just if you could have, if you had the opportunity, you could have put the snow squall warning along with a low water advisory, and then you would have really you would have touched my heart.
You know what? But you know what? What was annoying to a lot of people on Saturday, my phone's going off. How do I stop this stupid thing or whatever? It's there to warn you, especially if you're out on the roadways, that hey, in a few minutes you may very well have whiteout conditions. But people are getting all upset. It's like that episode in Seinfeld where the Russian guy takes Elaine's phone and throws it out the window. I mean, like people were upset that they were actually getting the emergency alert that snow squall warning was being posted. You can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't. You never can.
No.
Paul Roman.
But Joe, that's actually a new product that really was needed because when we had like these snow squall situations, and granted, most of the time it was up in the Poconos and it didn't get down as to Philadelphia that much. But we were kind of at a loss of what product to put out to actually get the message out to people. I mean, a lot of times that was buried in special weather statements and special weather statements, for a while, they just were like today's weather statement. It's just like that they weren't special anymore. We kind of overused that product, I think, to the point where people just didn't follow it or didn't get the alerts like they do now with the snow squall warnings. And I think this is a step that was a good step that went in the right direction for a product that was needed in situations like what happened last weekend.
Paul Roman hit super chat. Thanks, Paul, for letting me know about the apparently my audio was low. I just brought it up a little bit. I think because when I was getting the feedback, I sort of played with my headset here, so that might have impacted it. But I'm getting good levels, so I'm hoping that it sounds okay. If it's not, folks, just let us know on the chat board. We got the new HRRR. We talked enough to get enough time to go by that the 0Z HRRR model is out. So I think we could take a look at that. And Tony, I'm just wondering there are some people like the HRRR, some people don't. I find it to be very inconsistent. Sometimes it's, for example, the HRRR with the snow situation we had last weekend, or the weekend before, whatever it was, where we the most recent one that wound up producing the heavy snows in eastern Pennsylvania when all the models had nothing, very little there. And congratulations to the WPC guy that forecasted it correctly 3 days before. But I was looking at the HRRR through that whole sequence right through what ultimately happened along the coast, and it did really, really well. And then other times it's just awful. I mean, I don't know what other word to use, but it's just awful. Even when it's just looking at it in the 18-hour range. All of a sudden, it will just like lose things that it had, or suddenly stuff would appear that wasn't there before. I'm wondering what your opinion is of that particular model.
Pretty much what you said. Sometimes it's on. It's like the girl with the curl. Sometimes it's like it's good, and when it's good, it's very good. When it's bad, it's very bad. I used to use it more in convective situations. If it initialized the thunderstorms in the general vicinity of the areas where they were, I would follow it. But like if it started out initially poorly with the thunderstorms, there were thunderstorms there, one way or the other. I wouldn't, I would just ignore it. It's tough to figure out. I think, and Bill hopefully will correct me. But I think it still runs off the GFS, and so if the GFS is kind of is its parent or the RAP, or it goes from the GFS to the RAP to the HRR. And if somewhere along that chain, if something is off, I think maybe it may set it off, may make it wrong. But I mean, I just looked at it. I mean, it looks like a reasonable scenario for what's, it doesn't look like it's like too NAMI or too European-y. It looks like it's somewhere in between, which at this point is kind of a solipsistic, solution. And I know for our area, I mean, there's that little impulse that comes through, during the midday hours tomorrow. I mean, chances are our temperatures will be above freezing, but it wouldn't be surprised if there's, some sleet or some snow actually falls like across parts of South Jersey or extreme southeastern Pennsylvania and Delmarva for a couple of hours tomorrow afternoon, which is something that it has. And I noticed also that the Canadian models have had for a couple of runs.
Yeah, it takes the low, the primary low up toward Rochester, which is kind of what the NAM did, and then does it even? There's a closed isobar, but it still hasn't even popped up a low off of Long Island or near Nantucket, and it's also a couple of hours faster on the backside. The timing coming in is about the same. Starts as off as rain or freezing rain, and then it goes over to snow in northern New Jersey, Long Island, and New York City briefly for like 2 hours, and then it's back to sleet. And by 5 or 6 a.m. from New York City south, it's mostly rain, but there's not a whole lot of precip going on in central South Jersey and southeastern PA, and even in south central PA, it's all rain. You got to go Allentown northward to find any kind of freezing rain. I'm not so sure that part of the equation is right, but I guess if the primary holds on the way it shows, then it might be, and then of course it just moves away to the northeast.
Yeah, I don't know about it. I think if you were to have like a city, how far north the primary gets to, I don't think Rochester would be my choice. That's kind of deep into the cold air. That seems kind of tough to. I mean, that's a pretty what I know my friend Tom likes to call man-sized high pressure system up in Canada. So that's a lot of cold, dense air to dislodge. So I don't know if that part is crazy.
Is that why the global models are not? The global models aren't doing that. The global models are basically taking it into Southwest PA and then losing that primary.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the GFS. I don't know exactly how this exactly impacts it completely, but if you ever look at like the 2 meter GFS temperature profile forecast for Canada, sometimes they run 5 to 10 degrees colder than any of the other models.
Really?
And the GFS, I mean, I don't think this has been the case like for the last 24 hours or so. But initially, when this thing was like back in day 5, 6, and 7, the GFS had it snowing for a while down here in Philadelphia, even up to like several inches of snow before it was transitioning to something else. And it slowly edged its way, upward a little bit. So I don't yet. When you saw you mentioned the Rochester, and I went through that. That seems like a little bit too much of an ask to have a low go that far north with that type of Arctic air mass to its north. But maybe the truth may end up being somewhere in between. It may not be may not be like near Pittsburgh. It may actually be able to make it a little bit more into Pennsylvania before the toothpaste, you squeeze the toothpaste
Right.
tube and then the toothpaste comes flying out and the secondary load takes over, which is the setup. And, like you said, too, like when we go back to like, why does it not snow a lot in Philadelphia? And you think of like La Nina winters, which normally are typically tougher to get bigger snows. I mean, you get a lot of Miller Bs, and the shaft zones for Miller Bs just enlarge as you get farther and farther away from Boston and New York City to places farther to the southwest.
I just put up on my screen here. This is from NOAA from College Park, Maryland. They have a map which is actually hand drawn.
Are you sharing
the
this?
Forecaster. Yes.
Okay, hang on.
Yes.
Hang on. I got to switch you. You got to tell you have to tell the technical director these things, Joe. Go ahead. You got it. It's there.
I'm telling the technical director here. This was done by one of the forecasters at the Weather Prediction Center. Jackson is his name. And this is the low tracks and clusters. The WPC preferred tracks are in black. And if you notice here, this particular position for Friday morning at 7 a.m., they actually have two centers. They have the primary, which is near Pittsburgh. But notice, if you will, all these stars. Now, I suppose these are from the ensemble member positions. But it seems to me like there's actually two equally bunched up areas here, one near Pittsburgh, the other would be up near Buffalo, but they prefer, I guess, to put the low here near Pittsburgh, moving east-northeast to south of New York City, probably by the end of the day on Friday, eventually getting it all the way out to here for, pardon me. This position is for Friday evening at 7 p.m. This is 12 hours of movement. This takes it past New York City, probably by noontime. And yet they also have a secondary. Here's a secondary, Joe, that's just a little ways south and east of Atlantic City at the same time that they have the primary here near Pittsburgh. And then they curve that to, I guess, merge or consolidate with the primary. And I guess this eventually is going to be the combination of the primary and the secondary south of Nova Scotia by the end of the day on Friday. So, but I do note that I've been looking at this map over the last couple of days, and just a day or two ago, the track was taking this primary system north of New York City and up into central Massachusetts. And now they've actually shoved it, I guess, because of the strength of the cold air, actually just to the south of New York City. So the track is there's still some uncertainties as far as the track is concerned. And like I said, if this is all subjectivity, I mean, look at all the cluster up here as compared to the cluster near Pittsburgh. You could have had a coin toss. Maybe you should have put it at, somewhere north of Pittsburgh, like around here, in which case, if you continue at east-northeast, it would have gone just barely north of New York City. Anyway, this is the stuff that's going to be bringing us all the messy weather here come late tomorrow night and into the first half of Friday.
It's kind of been my argument all along in terms of my own forecast approach out of this, is that it's all going to be about the high to the north, and how far north can that primary go if that high is trying to hold, and the EPO, the East Pacific Oscillation, is at a -2. I would think that that's enough of a 2 standard deviation move that it would say that the high should be strong enough. That was sort of my logic. And that's why I was looking at the global models and saying, okay, well, that kind of makes sense if you're going to try to keep the cold air and sort of push it down. But then again, I just go back to the short range models that really want to get that warm nose up there, and the NAM is usually pretty good with that.
If you guys want to stick around for another half hour, we'll be able to get all the way through the Foose run of the NAM. And
yeah, that means we got to hang till 9:30. I don't know if I want to go to 9:30, Joe. I don't know if Tony wants to go to 9:30.
Dominic J. Anise on the chat board. He has now come up with the most significant or the most important part of this whole weather discussion. He says, "Screw the weather. I want a Joe Rayo bobblehead."
Yeah.
Well, Dominic, here it is. There you go. People still are asking for this. It's like 7 years or 6 years after the fact. But here you go, Dominic. The Joe Rayo bobblehead. I still have a few of these. What's your bid on this, Dominic? How badly do you want a Joe Rayo bobblehead?
See, now I would have liked to have had a bobblehead. I don't have a Joe Chaffee bobblehead.
Not only do I have a Joe Rayo bobblehead. Look at this, Joe.
Hang on a second.
I've got a Bill Corbell.
I know.
Corbell
You guys got
bobblehead.
bobbleheads. I get it. I hear you. I'm bobbleheadless.
I have a Tiger Woods bobblehead. Does that count for anything?
It might. I don't. Not quite sure, but it might.
No, I don't know. I got a Tiger Woods bobblehead.
You probably.
I'll tell you what,
you
gentlemen.
could probably sell it on eBay, Tony, and get money to buy a 2022 computer with it. I don't know.
I know. This computer's from 2011. I mean, it's amazing. It's still going.
Yeah, actually, it is.
Tony, don't feel bad about that, because right next to me, I have a Dell XPS computer dating back. It's a Windows XP, for goodness sake. And I hold on to this because I have a program on this particular computer. I run it on this computer because if I try to run it using it's a DOS program, a DOS program, disk operating system.
Naturally.
If I tried running that using a DOS emulator and put it on my new computer, my Windows 10 computer here, it comes out looking like a television show that's not in high definition. It actually comes out a little fuzzy. So I keep this machine, the old machine, because it comes out so beautiful. It looks sharp and clear, and it runs perfectly. And so long as this computer, this 15, 16-year-old computer keeps running, I will continue to hold on to this computer for as long as I can.
For as long as you live.
I brought this in for I brought this computer into a guy. I brought this in to get like a tune-up or something. Something was running bad on it or whatever. This is like 3-4 years ago. And the guy who saw this, he said, "Can I ask a question? Why are you holding on to this clunker?" And I said, "Well, there's one program that works great on this computer, and I'll continue to hold on to it so long as this thing." So
does that sit next to
old computers aren't so bad.
Does that sit next to your rotary flip phone? I just want to know the answer to that question. If it sits next to your rotary flip phone, then I that's fine. That it makes total sense to me.
And under the desk over here, I have a gateway computer, Joe.
God. I'm really going to lose it now. I'm just going to leave. Just let me leave.
It goes back to like 1998 or 99. The fact that I have on that gateway computer, I still have Windows 98.
Oh, good Lord.
That's my backup to the backup.
Well, I just got on Windows 11 because I had to. Actually, now that I'm out of tech hell, I was in tech hell for 3 weeks. And I'm finally out of tech hell and everything is working. Knock on every piece of wood that's near me because I don't want anything to go wrong. So let's see. Oh, John Charles says, "Do you still have the phone on the wall?" I don't. I don't even have I don't have. I just have a cell phone. I don't have a phone, a wall phone anymore.
Here's my phone.
I got that picture of Joe's rotary flip phone. Somewhere in my computer. I have it hidden away. I have to find it, but I'm not going to find it now. All right, Mr. Gigi.
The executive producer points out, by the way, I only use that computer, the one I just mentioned before, the Windows XP, for a specific astronomy program. And I'll tell you, I won't show you, but I'll tell you that computer. I wrote a research paper 2 years ago that's now being pretty much distributed down through the astronomical community. And actually, an astronomer. A real live astronomer as opposed to a fake astronomer.
Yes.
An astronomer who looked at my paper, did his own calculations and said, "I verify what Joe Rayo came up with. which made me feel so great considering that I'm using an old clunker, to use the words of the guy who looked at this 3 or 4 years ago.
You know what? At the end of the day, if
you
it still works, it's fine. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
It still works. It's fine. Yeah.
Right. The computer, our computer still works. So I'm not going to throw away something that works.
Right.
You know, when I get that deaf blue screen, I'll say, oh, it's time to get a new computer.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Alan is still using the Commodore 384, right?
No, actually, he's got a relatively new one.
Sorry, Alan, if you're watching, I apologize. Sorry. Sorry.
So, Tony, since we're coming up on 9 o'clock, I think we could.
Yes.
We've kept you 90 minutes. I mean, you know, you could go on the Ellen DeGeneres show and they'd only give you like 5 or 6, or you know, Jimmy Kimmel. Maybe you'd get 7 or 8 minutes on Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know, but here we love you so much that you get 90 minutes of airtime. Okay.
90 minutes.
Yeah, 90 minutes, you know, and you do that without an agent, which is even more phenomenal. So, final thoughts. Pick a number. Snowfall. How much snowfall will Philadelphia get? How much snow will New York get? How much snow will Hartford get? How much snow will Albany get?
You're asking this man so many different things. We'll be here for another half hour, Joe.
No, these are numbers. It's for, Philadelphia, New York, Hartford, Albany.
Well, Philadelphia, 0.2, and it'll be sleet.
Okay.
Probably won't be any snow. All right. Well, then I might as well just go. New York, I'll go. I'll follow the 2 themes. 2.2.
Okay.
2.2. All right. I'm going up to Hartford, huh?
Hartford.
My cousin Joe. He'll want to know the right number, or I guess he'll let me know. Hartford. I'll go 8.2.
Okay.
And Albany, I'll on the other side, I'll go 8.8.
All right. So we'll see how those numbers work out, and when you come back next time, I will. I'll rake you over the coals if they were wrong, and I will give you a heartfelt congratulations if they were right. Wait a second.
I was gonna say if you say when they're wrong. You know the Tom Grant expression. I know I'm wrong the moment I hit the enter button.
Yeah, those.
This is KWL35 at 162.55 megahertz.
Yes. So. Anyway, well, thank you, Joe, for having me on again.
Oh, we love you, Tony. Anytime.
Joe,
it was nice to get. I was great that you messaged me tonight, because you know what? Sometimes my mind is not necessarily where it should be, and I was involved with doing all sorts of weather stuff, and I didn't even think, to bring a guest on during a situation like this, which normally I do, but. It didn't cross my mind today, so you must have been like ESPing me at some level, and thinking, you know what, Joe needs a guest tonight, so I'm going to message him, and it's perfect timing, not the perfect timing. Thank you for coming on. And like I said, you're always you're always well. You have a door open here. Bill has a door open here. You can come on anytime you like.
Come on Sunday for our snow squall show.
It'll be like the last snow squall. I'll see the Terror and Q to the north. That's pretty much like the way thunderstorms are in Mount Laurel in the summer. The same thing.
Right.
CB north.
Right, until you get until you become Tornado Alley over there.
That's right. That's true. For the couple of days.
You have to have your obligatory tornadoes in the new. The new tornado, the new tornado alley of the Northeast.
Yes.
All right.
That's true.
Everybody, thanks for being here tonight. I don't have a guest tomorrow set up, John Charles, not yet anyway. But who knows who might pop in. Joe, you got any parting comments?
No, it's 9 o'clock. I want to see Gomer Pyle.
Okay, you go do that
on MeTV. For those of you. Television note, for all of you who do have MeTV, tonight's Gomer Pyle is the last Gomer Pyle in the 5-year series. And then tomorrow night, they'll start all over again. So,
all right. Well, on that note, uh, I'm coming up on 3,000 videos. I didn't realize I was that close to 3,000. I'm coming up on 3,000 videos on my YouTube channel. Thank God they host it for
and
free.
thank you for the one. And thank you for the 180 likes tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, and for all the super chat hits and for being here. Because
Yes.
without you, well, you know what? We'd be talking to ourselves, and that's not a whole lot of fun.
David Fuller, Steve Lapointe, Jeff Fowler, Jason Barry, Helen Bertona, N2TTP.
Oh,
I don't
no,
ever recall seeing that.
I think he or she is new.
N2TTP sounds almost like a ham radio call letter.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And 73s and 88s to N2TTP. Paul Roman finishing off the list tonight.
All right.
Thank you so much to all.
All right, folks. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern Time, we'll be here. It'll be knocking on the door. Tony, you have a great one. And Joe, I'll see you tomorrow night.
Thank you. You too, gentlemen.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good one, Joe.
Good night, everybody.
Night,
Good night,
Tony.
everyone.